I'll second it.
All right. Any suggestions or corrections? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carried. Audience to visitors. Do we have anyone that would like to speak?
I would like to. I know I'm not a visitor, but it's
On the agenda.
right. On September 28th, there's going to be a signing of a document in La Crosse with many regional people in Wisconsin right now, and it's called the Monarch Project, and it's a sort of quasi-federal volunteer type project. 10 states along both sides of the Mississippi are going to participate in this, and what it is monarchs and bees and other pollinators are being, destroyed, and because of population and agriculture and things like that. Monarchs, like $19 billion in honey every year. The agricultural needs pollinators, whether they're bees or bats and birds and things like that. And it's a big deal. September 28th at 1:30, it's going to be signed. As 10 federal and state and also local people. And I'm hoping that Vernon County will enjoy it. And I'm going to represent me, but maybe I could do it for Vernon County. But I just lost my train of thought. It's getting old. Well, anyway, the point is that they're bringing in so many people because of the impact on whether we have pollinators or lose them. And the two big areas that I think that very impactful for pollinators is agriculture and tourism. The housing, the hotels. I arranged a trip for a friend of mine to Bismarck Beach, California last fall. She wanted to see the migration of the going south, I think it was. Anyway, every hotel was filled. The campgrounds were filled. The planes and the buses and everything. Everything was packed because of the monarchs and watching the migration. So this is really an important economic as well as, tourism development. And I don't know if we need to make it an official designation, but I think that Vernon County needs to be belong because we have so much of our West Coast on the Mississippi River.
You're volunteering then to be part of that?
Well, I'm going to go anyway, yeah, because I think it's really important.
Where are they signing?
It's going to be in La Crosse. If you want the exact place and time, I can send it to you by email.
Well, maybe perhaps the committee, then they could spread the word. So
Okay, yeah.
great. Or Christina or anyone.
Yeah, okay, I will do that. I will send the info by email because it's kind of out of the blue, but it's really something that we really need to think about. Like I said, is agriculture as well as tourism, economic development. Okay.
Okay. Anyone else would like to speak? Okay. Well, then we'll move on to our special presentation today. Carl Green is here from the UW Extension.
Yes. Is it okay if I sit, or do you want me to stand up?
No, that's
You're good. Okay.
You're being recorded,
Have to pay extra for that. Well, I do see in the minutes that the request was sort of a review of what other counties are doing. We don't really have an active database that has any sort of updates, at least, that can show you. But I think I've put together enough data that will really kind of lay out both our ability to compare with surrounding counties around here, as well as what really the changes in economic development are happening within the field of economic development. Can I just take the, okay. And starting with, the traditional role of economic development was jobs, jobs, jobs. How do we create jobs and how do we get more manufacturing, more industry, more jobs in communities? And specifically, a lot of the state programs that are grant programs are focused on jobs, the CDBG, Public Facilities for Economic Development. That basically, it ramps up the dollar amount based on the number of jobs you're able to either create, or I think they started to soften that and they say, or retain. T grants, which are Wisconsin Department of Transportation Economic Assistance Grant. If you've got a business that's moving and they need assistance with some sort of infrastructure that's related to road or rail. T grants are another program, economic development related, again, is how many jobs are created or retained. And then I just have some examples from the city of Green Bay, Dane County, and then even Southwestern Regional Planning Commission. And all of their revolving loan funds are, job creation, job retention. Unfortunately, I think if we focus on jobs, what tends to happen is that especially if it's jobs retained, you almost create a situation where somebody's saying, I will leave unless I can get funding. You have to make the argument that if we don't get this funding, then we're going to be looking elsewhere. And I don't think that that's a good type of situation. That's one consideration. Now, this is a graphic of unemployment rates for a variety of, they break it out by race. And so you have African Americans, you have Latino, and you have white. And African Americans are in blue, Latino, Hispanic are in orange, and then white people are the gray line here. And what I just want to point out is in these gray areas are recessions that have happened. And this goes back through 1975. And what we saw post-recession of 2008 to 2010 was a very significant and long-term drop in unemployment. And so what we're seeing in today's market is that employers aren't, we're not trying to find jobs for people. Employers are trying to find workers. And in a environment when there is a significant lack of worker to fill jobs, we really need to start to think, are we wanting to put county funding or public funding to make more competition for workers for our existing businesses? Does that make sense? So why is this environment the way that it is? It, as much as a politician will try to say it's because of policies that we've implemented, it's not so much, it's regarding demographics. Mm-hmm. We have baby boomers that in 2011 started to retire. Coincidentally, if you look back to 2011 is right around here. So this is when the baby boomers start retiring. And so as your largest generation, aside from the millennials, starts to retire and they're in these, upper management and higher roles, you're getting this opening of the workforce for everybody else, essentially. This source I have, I can't read it, and I can't remember. Seniorliving.org, thank you. Most of the data that I put on here, I've got the sources on here, so if you're wanting to explore them, you can. Some of them even have the active links if you want to click them. If you want, we can provide you with the PowerPoint so they can go to the active links. So this seniorliving.org estimates that about 10,000 baby boomers a day are retiring, and they will be doing that until 2030. So this is a shift that's happening and will continue to happen for the next, 7 years, 6, 7 years, I guess. Then we had another shift that occurred following the pandemic impact, and that was people were trying to isolate, and we started to realize people can work from home. But there's an exception to that. You have to have the ability to be able to log online. And if you're doing Zooms and you're doing some sort of meetings online, you have to have that capacity in your internet to be able to do that. So the big takeaway really is, as you guys are thinking about what is the position that economic development does, I guess I would say job creation isn't necessarily the same that it was 20 years ago. And you know, I mean, I'm not trying I'm trying to, you know, bring some data behind sort of some of those thoughts. So as we think about economic development in today's environment, we need to start to think about what are the issues that are affecting economic development, that are affecting worker retainage, attracting workers to our areas. Housing and affordable housing is a situation. Just finding workers and having a net population that's large enough that there's enough skill sets within that population. Having adequate childcare, as we're seeing more and more families move from a single family house working household to two parents working. Childcare is a huge issue. And then the idea of broadband and that ability to connect so that whether you're working at home or you're doing some sort of hybrid, you have the ability to still access your computer and to do Zooms and different types of meeting platforms that are necessary in today's environment. Sure. Yeah. So the problem with these issues of childcare, with affordable housing, with broadband, is that they actually create pinch points in an economy. If you have a job that you're willing to offer to a worker, but they can't find childcare, that's going to make it difficult for them to accept that position, because they want to take the position. But if they can't find adequate childcare, you know, parents are having to decide, how do we figure this out? How do we work and provide some sort of care for our kids before they start into the K through 12 system? And so housing is the same way. If they're unable to find adequate housing, what you're going to start to see is people migrating further and further away from their job locations. Unfortunately, what that does is it creates greater transportation costs. It changes the family budget. If they're unable to have adequate internet, then that eliminates some areas from being sort of where they could live at, work from home if they decided that they wanted to have some sort of a hybrid situation. By the way, I always thought I wanted to work from home, and then the pandemic hit, and I just about went nuts. And I said, I don't like this. I don't think it's what it's cracked up to be, but some people, they find it, that's what they want to do. So more power to them. What's that?
Be careful what you.
Yes, that's a good lesson. So as we're thinking about this, if the existing county businesses are struggling to find workers, what do they think about economic development programs that are focused on job creation? Again, every job that's created is going to be competition for their workers, depending on the skill levels of the jobs created. If you know, they're lower skilled jobs, and that's part of the problem with childcare, is that childcare workers are paid at such a minimum amount that as we start to see fast food restaurants and different sort of national chains that have the ability to pay $15 to $17 an hour, they just can't pay that for childcare and break even for what parents are able to afford. And so childcare centers are struggling to find employees, and they're struggling to keep the capacity of their existing center up and running because they don't have enough workers and they can't pay their workers enough. We heard from La Crosse County businesses because before my role as the local government education program manager, I was in Hannah's position in La Crosse County for 16 years. And what we heard from businesses, we have a lot of printing companies, and they're saying, just give me workers. I don't want to see you guys putting money towards economic development so that we can't find even more workers. We'll get people to understand that we can offer good jobs. So it's that workforce attraction, workforce retention that they were appreciating and looking for us to help with. So that's just becomes this common issue. And again, as the demographic data illustrates, this is something that's going to stay with us for quite a while. So really, we need to sort of reframe the economic development positions, in my mind, to support existing businesses. What are things that we can do to help attract workers? Part of that is, how do we make this a place that people want to live, so that they can work here, or that they can live here? They might not work here, but that Vernon County is an attractive place to live. And things that are attracting, in particular, as we're moving from more service to a more knowledge-based economy, healthcare options, having the ability to have proper healthcare and adequate healthcare. The benefit of where we live, I feel like in La Crosse, is I've got 2 hospitals within a mile of our house. Safe neighborhoods, clean environments, good schools. I didn't put it on here, but as we were talking, arts and culture, things that are attractive and that are enjoyable to do. People are looking for more than just work. They're looking for that work-life balance, opportunities for advancement. I would imagine if you were a professional and you're coming to the area, if your job goes away, do you have to move now? So what is the opportunity for advancement, whether it's within the position that you're at the company you're at, or if you're advancing, you can go to another company if there's competition like that. Those are types of things that I think can be attractive to attract people. I've got on here things to do outside of work, outdoor recreation, third places being these places that you can gather as a community, as a group with like-minded individuals, whether that's, churches, whether that's biking, any type of sort of just community that's outside of work that is attracts people and gives them meaning in their life. That's what people are really looking for in today's environment. Community for like-minded individuals to share fellowship together. When we think about economic development as a county, I guess let's think about what are the things that that the county gets benefit from economic development. Property taxes, obviously, as you increase economic development, you're going to get more businesses and more homes. Those are the 2 areas that you start to see property tax creation. And what does that do for the county? It doesn't create more revenue, as I've presented to the county board. But it does create more tax base, and then you can spread your levy over that tax base, and that thins the levy or reduces the levy, because your levy, your mill rate is simply your levy divided by your total tax base. So if we're increasing the bottom half of that equation, we're getting a lower mill rate, and we're making the taxes that people have to pay per thousand less. Another impact that Vernon County sees if there's economic development happening is the sales tax. So 0.5% of all sales in the county, and I believe Vernon County has a sales tax, goes to offset the county levy. In 2022, that was just over $2.5 million. So that's a big impact, and it certainly helps to offset the net levy. So, we don't want to discount the impact that sales tax has. Net new construction, so any new growth that the county is seeing, that's going to create the ability to increase your levy. So, there's benefit when you're getting that new construction. And then I guess I would suggest, what are the cost reductions that economic development could create? When you tend to have low unemployment and high wages, you're going to have less poverty. You're going to have less of the human service related requirements of your county. And that might be a cost savings that you can start to see benefits from as you're getting more economic development activity. So those, I'm just trying to think of, where are you benefiting from when a county is performing and being successful in economic development. So I'm going to start to pull some data here for both Vernon County, and then we'll do some comparatives of data sets that tend to be helpful in gauging how economic development is happening in the county. So this is county sales tax for Vernon County as of July, so they every month they acquire the data. I think they're usually about 2 months behind. So Department of Revenue had this through July of 2022. The red line here is, I believe,
Retail.
I thought that was everything, but okay, it's retail trade. So just your typical retail. This doesn't have as much detail as you can get. If you want, let Hannah know, and we can work together in putting together a better understanding of how your sales tax is where it focuses on. What are the industries that feed the sales tax? You'll notice that it's very cyclical, seasonal. That's why you're seeing these drops. So these are going to be the various seasons. I'm going to guess it's winter months, and perhaps farm equipment and things like that help to drive this. I'm going to guess that they do. But this just kind of gives you an understanding of how sales tax is. I know for La Crosse County, sales tax has been going up for the past decade, and it's foreseen to be that's going to continue. They made a big change back in 2018, 2019, where they basically said any point of sale that happens through the internet, if you're buying from Amazon, but you bought it from Vernon County, is going to go to Vernon County. And so that was a big help to sales tax. So this is just sort of your performance of sales tax. When we think about net new construction, I showed this at the county board the last time I spoke. Vernon County is about in the middle. La Crosse County is here. Crawford County, let's see here, they are here. Monroe is up here, I think, because of a lot of the sand mines that they started to see in the mid to late teens. Let's see, I'm drawing a blank on some of the, Sauk County is right there. While you're just got a very small border with Sauk County, you actually do border Sauk County, as you guys know, and then Richland County is down over here. Yeah, so you're kind of in the middle, and that would be to be expected, especially when you've got a somewhat urban county, that you're bordering. These are the municipalities in the county of Vernon that have seen growth, and so what we see is that some of the smaller villages tend to actually look like they're getting more growth just because they have smaller tax base, and so they get $1 million of growth, and that's like as a percent that they're doing just fantastic. I'm not sure how it really is. So when we're thinking about economic development, what are some of those gauges that we can start to monitor? And really, I think there's importance in being able to monitor some of these things because they really help. They're the gauges on your equipment that are saying, are we running too hot? Are we running too rich? Or are we going too fast? Are our RPMs too high? These are the things that really start to show how economic development is doing in your county. Those are per capita income. Again, this usually correlates with lower poverty, higher rates of employment. That can lead to higher rates of property ownership. Employment growth, again, that would obviously correlate with lower unemployment. Property tax base, value per capita, median home prices, and then annual home sales, and then the volume of sales. And so this is data that has been put together by Forward Analytics. They're part of the Wisconsin Counties Association. They annually put together a book called the Forward Analytics Green Book, aptly named. It's got a green cover. So they rank in quartiles. So the top 25% of the 72 counties, and the bottom 25%, and then the mid 25 and above. And so in your neighboring area around Vernon County, your per capita income is highest in Sauk County, which is a neighbor of Dane County. So that kind of probably is influenced by that. Next, followed by La Crosse County. Crawford County, I thought I had these in order. I guess I don't. Richland County would be above there, Crawford County, and then Vernon County, and then Monroe County, which is interesting that they have so much net new construction, and yet their per capita income is somewhat lower. When we look at poverty rates in Vernon County and neighboring counties, unfortunately, it looks like rural poverty is an issue that Vernon County is dealing with.
What's the definition of poverty these days?
I can look and see what they use for that definition. I don't know it off the top of my head, but I could get that to you.
I think I read it was like below 50,000.
Yeah, it's different than people think. People keep looking at red lines, and that's satellite dishes and 4 cars.
Well, I think it's probably higher than you would think.
Yeah, I was just shocked.
Yeah. And so, I mean, you could see where, in particular, if you have a strong agricultural industry, it might not capture the full, that full number, even though people might have a lot of assets and they might really have wealth, they might not have a lot of income.
Any good farmer only makes 35,000 a year.
What's that?
Any good farmer only makes 35,000 a year.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Got a good account.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what I'm saying.
And I think income is such a misnomer because I mean, somebody that's making 50,000 as a landlord and has $5 million in property value that they own is very different than somebody that's making $50,000 in rents. So that can be a misnomer. But then I would also point out, I got a little asterisk by La Crosse County. I think our county's values are changed a little bit by our student population. We've got a group of 10,000 to 20,000 people that are probably considered low income by choice because they're going to school, but that is going to influence our poverty. Unemployment, and again, this is, do we really want to try to create jobs in an environment where you're below 3% in employment? I mean, if you were at 10%, 12%, yes, it makes sense that that's something because there are people that are certainly struggling and trying to find work. At 2.7% of the working population, people are choosing between jobs here. There are almost, I think I heard there was a state statistic that there's like, I don't know, I won't say it. I think it was something around like 2 jobs for every unemployed person, something along that line. But you can see even the low end of this, Crawford County, they're under 4%. Again, I mean, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, that would be phenomenal. And that's where it's at today. And then this is an interesting number, the 5-year job growth. So this is looking at the period from 2017 to 2022. 51 out of 72 counties in the state of Wisconsin have less jobs in 2022 than there were in 2017. That would seem to suggest that job creation is important. Again, we're in this interesting demographics shift that we're seeing less jobs, but very, very low unemployment. There's been this forecast of recession in the last year and a half, 2 years that we've been waiting for. We're not seeing it in the job market. I mean, we might possibly have a recession that is not impacting the amount of jobs, or if it does impact, it's going to bring us, slightly up, but not to where we historically think of during a recession. So for all of the counties that are in this surrounding Vernon County, we're in the negatives. Interesting enough, the big jump was Calumet County. I have no idea exactly what Calumet County has. I do think that there's correlation with the urban areas because, if you're Dane County, you've got, and then many of your surrounding counties to that, you got the Fox River Valley, you've got, the darker counties have the highest amount of job growth. But while Calumet was, I think, around 17% of an increase, the majority of these that are in dark purple are 2% to 4%. It's not a huge change.
Is that still COVID related where they haven't completely picked up yet?
I don't think so. I think it's as much that you've got less workers. I think people are relocating to work because they can work from home and they can live wherever. Their job might be in Boston, but they live in, whatever county. I guess I haven't dug into it enough to know, but that's my hunch is that.
I read something yesterday or today that there were actually jobs that are obsolete and disappearing. So that's an impact on,
Automation is taking a lot.
yeah, exactly, technology.
Yeah.
And that impacts education, background stuff that you have to have your workers trained for this.
Yeah, to have the ability to run
Mhm.
that.
That reshapes like entry level positions and
That's
things
right.
like that.
Yeah.
So here's an interesting, I thought, data set that is pretty telling to me. This is the net in commuting for the variety of counties. So this is adding the number of workers in minus the number of workers out. So for the jobs that you have, how many people that live in the county are working in that same county, and then it's subtracting people that are moving or that are working outside of the county, and it's also looking at workers that are coming into the county. So for La Crosse, we're attracting, because we have quite a few jobs, people from all around La Crosse County, and I gotta imagine it's from every side of La Crosse County. But look at Vernon.
Yeah.
Very, very different. Now, I got to imagine there's a strong component of people that live in Vernon County that work for Gunderson, that work for Mayo, work for Quick Trip, but they live here for a reason. And it's, can you create and use this to say, we want to build on our strengths. We know that not everybody that lives in Vernon County works in Vernon County. Do we have to get the jobs in Vernon County, or do we want to try to attract the people to understand you can live a rural lifestyle, you can live a small town lifestyle, there's safe neighborhoods, there's a lot of amenities, there's the natural environment, there's the bluffs, and people that want to live that can choose that. Do they have the ability? Do they have the broadband? Do they have child care? And do they have the other ancillary things that make it still attractive to live here?
One of the things you see a lot of the commuters going by smart bus, so there's no, major, gas and oil charges and all of that stuff. So that really helps the going out. Yeah.
So programs and supporting programs that give that opportunity for people to commute like that. So one of those other things that we had talked about was residential home sales. Your home sales have hovered around 200 to up to 300. You did see a big jump in 2020, 2019, 2021 in particular. The interesting about this is that if you start looking, and I can, if you want, again, I can, through Hannah, can help provide some of these data sets. I believe the mean sale is this flat line, and that goes to this price on the left. And then this line represents the average. And so when your average is higher than your mean, what that's suggesting is that the top, that you have more home sales in the upper end of your spectrum of homes than in the lower end. And just about every single year, you're having that happen, except in 2021.
You have a net new construction, Carl? That'd be an interesting slide. Because in a good market, 2009, there's a lot of turnover, there's a lot for sale, there's nothing for sale right now. So I think now the majority must be new construction because there's not a lot for sale.
So,
or it sells fast. I don't know.
Yeah, we could provide that, and that would be a good data set to understand is what is your home construction market like? Because if you're not getting builders and you're not attracting new homes, that would be something that you definitely want to consider.
So
There's a couple.
Last sort of thoughts, impressions. Again, roughly about a third of Vernon County's workforce works outside of Vernon County. Your per capita income is regionally low and poverty is regionally high. Those are things that, are there programs, are there things that the economic development efforts can do that help to change some of those numbers, because home ownership is going to be impacted by those numbers. Unemployment in Vernon County is very low, in particular due to some of the county neighbors. Monroe County and La Crosse County have a lot of jobs. It's very easy to commute. your 5-year job growth is better than Sauk, Richland, and Crawford. That's a good thing. And higher wages help reduce the siphoning of workers. Is the opportunity for higher workers or higher wages something that Vernon County can actually do? If you're doing job creation programs, do you want to put a bottom line of if your job isn't paying $30 an hour, we're not going to put county funding towards it because we need higher wage workers. That's just something to think. So here's my contact information. Again, sorry, I'm not giving you, this is what this county has done. This is what that county has done. I've started that conversation with our economic development folks within extension, so we can start to think about how we inventory that type of thing. But the 51 counties that are seeing a negative change from 2017 to 2022 makes me think that there's probably not a huge, that's 70% of the counties. There's only 30 that are maybe getting it right, 30%. So I hope that data has maybe given you guys some fodder to think about. I think you're going to be seeing a presentation from MRRPC that's kind of coming up with a strategy. And then, from there, your economic development position can pursue some of those ideas with regards to that strategy. I do think compiling and maintaining data, it's this gauge, or series of gauges that you're able to start to look at and see what is really working in your county. So.
I was just wondering, do you have or could you share, if you are aware, what are some other counties doing around here just in terms of like economic development staff? Like, we currently contract with Christina and have discussed a full-time county, employed economic development director. Do other counties surrounding us have a full-time person on staff, part-time? Do they contract, or does it fall to other positions?
I know Monroe County had a contract. I don't know if they still do. La Crosse County has 2 staff, full-time staff, an economic development coordinator. I'm drawing a blank on his role.
W or individual?
On Sam's position?
Sam Bachmeyer.
Yeah, on Sam's position. His is, I think, coordinator.
Okay, economic development coordinator. So
For the county
for
then?
the county.
For the county, yes, it's an in-house position.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they dedicate sales tax to pay for those positions. So they
that's
say
interesting.
sales tax is benefiting from economic development, so we'll just take the position for net sales tax. And because net sales tax is significant enough, it doesn't, it takes away from, it's coming from the levy, whether it's offsetting or whatnot, but it's just a way to help illustrate that that's where the funds can come. And then they have a county planner that had traditionally worked in the zoning department. But they would work on, there was a variety of things that they have been working on, housing related issues. The county would act as administrative staff for municipalities that didn't have the capacity to operate TIF.
They ran a program to a 0% loan program.
They have a revolving loan program. Yep. And I think annually or every other year, they do sort of a dive into data and what are the focuses that the loan program should be worked on. They have a housing, it's called acquisition and demolition program that myself and a couple other of the people that have left since, but that we worked on. We were seeing that there was a stagnation in housing values, in particular in the city of La Crosse. And so we were trying to come up with a way that some of the stuff on sort of the lowest end of valuation that was just gimping along, dilapidated, would get basically purchased, tore down, and new development. And there was about a 10-to-1 ratio of for every $1 that we put in, we got $10 back in tax base. So has been a very successful program.
LAGCO fit into that. That's an economic development organization that works in
Yeah.
LaCrosse County.
Sam actually worked at Latco
Okay.
and then went to the county. Yeah.
LADCO has had an interesting history. There was a 30-year veteran that was the executive director. He retired. Another executive director was hired. He was arrested for
Yep.
soft embezzlement, I guess. And then the former mayor became the executive director.
Don?
No, Tim Cabot. And so I feel like, I mean, economic development corporations, I think they've been challenged in this, the last 5 years of low unemployment, because they typically are the organization that does job creation and is trying to get, jobs in. They do more. They help with TIF, shepherding TIF projects through municipalities. But I guess I haven't seen a ton of activity that I would say is directly LAGCO, but I also have been out of a position for 2 years, so I'm not in a good view of it.
How many people plan knowing that we're at a population expansion neutral or maybe even contracting because of boomers passing and smaller birth rate? I mean, that's going to impact, industry and everything else. Are people planning on that? Are they thinking about it anyway?
It depends in the county. I mean, your school districts, I think we're seeing all throughout the state that school districts, private and public, are seeing enrollments starting to shift. And so
That's charter as well as homeschooling is impacting that.
that
Yeah.
is influencing it as well.
Yeah.
And then birth rates,
Yeah, it's just a lot to think about.
Thank you, Carl.
Sure.
Yeah,
Appreciate your
it's
comment.
great.
Thanks.
Any additional questions before we move on?
Thank you.
You're welcome
Okay.
to join us, or you can go.
I've got other commitments later this afternoon, but any questions that, whether they come up now or in the meeting or later, feel free to go through Hannah and we can work however.
Okay, terrific. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on. Economic Development Strategy update from Place Dynamics MMRPC.
We will have a presentation, a short update from Andrew Dayton from Place Dynamics, and he is online.
Okay,
He will have slides to share.
all right.
And then after that, their Mississippi River Planning Commission, because they changed the date, they're unable to be here, but they did do a written update, which can,
Okay.
you can,
Which we have from us, yes.
the packet will, and we'll review after hear from Place Dynamics.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, can you hear me, Christina?
I can hear you.
Okay, now I just have to figure out how to share my screen. Turn my camera on, that might help. And then, is there a simple way to share the screen here? Oh, share it. All right. All right. That's fine. All right. Okay, later. All right. See if this will let me do it now. There we go. All right. And that. Okay. Can you see me there?
Yes, we can see you.
Okay. Do you see the screen?
Yes. Yes,
Okay. Okay, well, thanks for having me. I'm just providing, again, Andrew Dane was out in the end of August for a couple days. I'm a project manager and work with Michael Stumpf at Place Dynamics, and we partnered together. We've been working together for probably at least 10 years. I was over last month, got a chance to have a couple small focus group discussions, one in Westby and one in Viroqua, and then met with a few folks, and then has followed that up with some phone call conversations, did a little bit of tour around the county when I was out there, and we're just kind of just starting to dig into this project now. So I'm also working on the survey that I'll talk about in just a minute. And then we're going to start digging into the market study this next month, and we'll be able to provide an update in October. We'll be able to provide you an update on the market study piece of the strategy here. So I just thought it was interesting. I went through, and I don't know if you guys have done this or not, you probably have, but I did go through and just take a look at the strategy that Michael and I put together in 2017, I think, and just went through each of those strategies. And in light of what I've been hearing and observing, Mike, it looked as if that you've made a lot of progress on a number of these bullet points. So I just want to congratulate you guys for having done something, if not completely conquered the world. It seems to me that you've made some initiatives and some strides relative to a number of these different strategic areas, and I think a lot of these items within this existing plan, a lot of these strategies, it struck me that they were still very relevant, to today, which makes a lot of sense, since these are major issues that a lot of communities are facing. So I went through and kind of looked at that and started, as we're starting to look at preparing this next plan, as we're drilling down, what are the opportunities to maybe sharpen some of these strategies, versus, starting over from scratch. I think you've got a nice set here. And I was just, so I'll just go on. So the task one, as we're getting into this month, is really the market research, and that's primarily just been the stakeholder meetings and then site visit. Doing another site visit next month. I hope to get up there with Michael next month at some point, possibly for the committee meeting, if possibly not. And then continue to hold some stakeholder meetings remotely, over the phone, and then over when I get over there in person. And then we'll jump into the market research, which is really going to be similar to what we did last year, but a little bit more emphasis, I think, in workforce, childcare. We're going to be looking at the different downtown districts, do an update on the demographic analysis, hopefully incorporate some of the information that Carl just shared. That looks pretty interesting. So I thought I'd just start off with just sharing just some of the things I've heard so far, and then hopefully maybe it's a conversation starter to see if you've got some other kind of issues or things that you want us to really be looking at, as we start to just dive into the numbers and continue to have more discussions with some of the economic development stakeholders over there. So one of the things that has jumped out at, you've got a really strong healthcare system, a diverse healthcare system, and then that also was brought up relative to the educational system as well. You've got some different options. You've got a public school system, private school system, some Waldorf school, a Montessori school, some private schools, a good public school system. Those are all huge assets. Healthcare was noted as a strength, with the healthcare system. And then there's been some recent infrastructure investment with the EDA funding. A number of communities have taken advantage and some of the flood related funding. and the counties put their community development program. And then I also heard in just talking to, Christina and Hannah and Sue Noble at Vita, you also, and Amy, you've got some real expertise, it seems to me, in terms of grant writing. You've got and so I won't go through and read all of these, but these are some of the ones that popped out to me. A lot of partnerships already in place relative to economic development. And then some of the challenges, affordable child care, housing affordability, but also availability of housing in general, not just subsidized or more affordable or workforce housing, but housing at all different price points. One of the challenges that was brought up was it's a little, just the resources to implement the plans, resources to implement some of the initiatives and the growth in tourism, resources, even just resources for the smaller communities that don't have staff to implement projects is a challenge, because they may have great ideas, but it's, a lot of times smaller communities, you got one person wearing multiple hats already, doesn't have the time and energy to implement additional projects. And then some of the programming, some of the opportunities. So, I talked to Susan, she mentioned they're going to be reinitiating this Inventors and Entrepreneurship Club. I imagine that might involve, the county and other partners, business workshops, some of the things that they were talking about doing, quarterly business workshops, getting a little bit more drilled down around tourism, just the idea of, and I know Viroqua, it sounds like there's some initiatives now, some discussions going on around an expanded room tax, but as there are opportunities to expand the funding model to support tourism more broadly. Somebody brought up the idea of a wedding website. Somebody brought up the growth of just the wedding industry, and then trying to think about how to support that. Attracting remote workers, similar to Carl just mentioned, trying to grow incomes at the higher end of the spectrum, but also he mentioned, I think his statistics said 1/3 of the workforce lives outside the county and commutes in. Is there an opportunity to attract some of those folks to live in Vernon County? And then developing some tourism support infrastructure. The recent public-private partnership for tax credit for workforce housing in Viroqua, could be a model for other smaller communities to look at if they haven't already, to try to address the affordable housing issue, and then expanded tourism development. Were some of the opportunities. Got a bug flying around my face. So I want to just park it at that and see if if anything jumped out to you so far in what I said here. What are some big things that I've missed, or what are some things you might want to just emphasize?
Andrew, this is Rod. Did you have any other interaction? Unfortunately, our Westby was not well attended. Do you have any other significant public interaction that led you to these deductions?
I had we had a nice meeting the night before or the day after at Viroqua. I think we had about half a dozen people, but a nice variety. I think Tom Weston from the bank was there. And then I just had I had some interactions. I went to the public market in Viroqua. I did some just informal drop-ins as I was working my way through the county, just talking to people in small businesses and whatnot. So I haven't really gone back around now to target the rest of the stakeholders list that Christina had sent me over. So my plan now is to follow up directly with the folks that weren't able to attend the meetings, and reach those individuals, on one-on-one if I can.
Any other questions? Anyone? Do you have any other things you'd like to share?
Well, I was just the next steps here, continue these stakeholder meetings. What we want to do in our proposal, we indicated we wanted to do a survey. What I wanted to do is design that in a way that would complement the regional planning survey so that we're not confusing people. So I thought in about a month, and when we get some key findings from the market analysis and we've got some insights to share, I thought maybe what we might do is launch that survey with some of the key findings from the market study, and then use that survey to drill down on some specific areas of interest. So I was thinking we wait till we get the results of the RPC survey back, and then we can kind of decide, are there some specific areas that we want to drill down a little further on? So I think our survey is going to be a little different than the one that John put together in terms of, I think it can be a little more qualitative and a little bit more informal. I don't think it'll be as many questions. I think it'll be a little bit more focused on some specific issues like priorities versus more of a broad-based survey. So yeah, and then myself and or Michael will be attending the next meeting, and then we'll coordinate when we're back on site for a site visit sometime in October.
I just have a question, if I may. How did you determine the invitees?
So we got a list. I think Christina helped put together a list of folks, and let me just see. I could share. I may be able to pull up the list that we're working off of. I know she pulled together a really thorough list of a lot of folks. So we could.
Surprised I didn't just forward it on this invite for the stakeholder meeting. I believe I did.
Yeah, I think
You did.
Yeah.
Just in an email.
Yeah. Did you? Okay, so you've already seen that list. Yeah.
We haven't seen the list, but we did get an email to
with the
indicate
opportunity,
the sites were, yes.
Well, this is the list. I don't know if you can see it, but this is the list I'm going off of. Can you see this?
Sort of.
Sort of. It's probably really small. I could make it a little bigger. Anyways, this is kind of a list I've been going off of and adding to. I don't know if you can see that. There's probably 30, 40 people on here.
Okay. Tim, do you have a comment? Would you like to ask a question or make a comment? Yes, we can.
Mhm. Thank you for the comments.
Thank you, Tim.
So I guess just for the back to the committee here before, I know you got other stuff on your agenda. Anything else, I guess, as we're diving in and having more of these conversations, are there some other specific issues? I mean, housing and childcare have, come up again as priorities. Anything else that's gnawing at you? One of the things that's kind of gnawing at me a little bit is, I know in the last study we talked about kind of, the wood products industry. I know there's some concerns with the markets for that. I'm just kind of curious, is that a sector? Is that something that's still on people's minds as potentially, something to promote or grow?
As the economic development coordinator, I haven't found many opportunities to help promote or grow that within the county. So it's kind of a hard one to get behind. There's like the Amish population that makes great furniture, and there's like whole trees that do foresting, and but I don't know if it's like a major driver as a targeted industry.
And Andrew, this is Hannah with Extension. And so I'm working on setting up a meeting with our county conservation specialist and his group so that we can go over that and understand it a little bit more, because it may impact future relations with our Amish community, as well as kind of from my standpoint for focus with entrepreneurship is understanding and bridging the gap so that we can kind of showcase more of our Amish community within Vernon County as well.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested in, hearing back from you as you explore that, Hannah, through the next several months, just to see how that might be incorporated.
There was a problem a while back, and I don't know if it's been resolved, but the Amish were burning a lot of stuff, and the particulates were very thick in the air. Does anybody know about that? I mean, they're really people raising heck about it. What happened?
Has zoning about all the open, we've zoning violations.
We've solved it in our township.
Did you? But is it county-wide solved, or is it just each township by itself?
I know Matt's zoning is going through, and he's been trying to work with them on resolving things and to fix and make things better. From the extension standpoint, it's more learning what gaps there are and barriers that we can have better working relationships, and how do we foster and grow that, because we have such a predominant Amish community.
One thing you mentioned is, just as we're talking about the Amish, I keep hearing people mentioning statistics about, the lower income profiles, poverty rates, et cetera, within the county. And obviously, I'm sure everybody knows this, but obviously some of those figures or metrics are depressed, because of the cash-based economy and folks who aren't working in the formal economy. So I just want to point that out. Michael and I were talking about that the other day, wondering, if there was a way to correct for that at all. But it's just worth noting again, I think.
And we English call that left pocket money, but that's,
Then called it free fund.
yeah. So we're all familiar with it.
All right.
So anything else you want to bring us up to date on?
I think that should do it. If there's anything else, people can, get a hold of me directly or via, Christina or Rod, and we'll keep working our way. I'll keep reaching out to the folks on that stakeholder list, and I'll be compiling. I am taking notes on all these and compiling that into a document, so I can share that with you at the October meeting as well.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Appreciate the.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now we have a written report from MRRPC.
Yes, this was in your packet, and I think if here you would have a more extensive, what the responses from the survey were and things like that. But he had to keep it into a point that could be understood. But they actually did the survey, so it seems like Place Dynamics is going out and did the focus groups and are going to be doing the survey next after the market study. The Mississippi River Planning Commission is taking the approach of doing the survey first and then analyzing those results and then doing focus groups.
Okay.
So it looks like they received over 100 responses to the survey, which is absolutely amazing, I think. And they're currently analyzing the survey results and have been collecting other relevant data for the plan and strategy. All the inputs would be utilized to tell the county's story and set the groundwork for Mississippi River Planning Commission to lead focus groups and interviews to identify the opportunities for economic advancement in Vernon County. They also have added many points of interest in the Placer AI tool to help validate the information gathered from other sources and look at the county communities, industries, activities, and events directly. The team looks forward to converting this data into actionable information for the ED committee. If you have any questions, you can contact John Biggle, and his phone number is on there. I also have his email address if you guys would like.
Okay, thank you, Christina. Any questions or comments? Good.
Before we move on to the next, can we backtrack to agenda 6? We just skipped approving vouchers. And I
Oh,
wanna
my
be
goodness,
careful.
I suppose I might ever have to, yes. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
All right, go ahead. You have some vouchers to present.
Yeah, we have vouchers. I shared these in an email and then sent an updated packet because we had another invoice come in. Total of the vouchers is $18,349.75. So payment for our economic development coordinator contract and mileage. And then we are in the process of demolition for a property in Lafarge. And so you'll start to see invoices come through for that. So that is grant reimbursed.
Yes.
And then the first half of payment to Mississippi River Regional Planning Commission for their work with the economic development strategy. So I'll pass those around for your review and signature.
Is there a motion to approve the vouchers?
I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Sight unseen. There we go. Oops.
Yeah.
More or less, actually.
Yeah, they're on your email.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Okay, all in favor of approving the vouchers, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, now we'll go back. Go down. Is there, this is the Economic Development Loan Program. Do you also have someone have an update on that?
Yep, and I have it up on the screen too. It's also
Okay.
in your packet. John
Okay.
send that along. So beginning balances of August 1st, $617,192.03. Payments, principal and interest payments totaled for the month was just a little over $8,000. Interest we earned from Alfred Federal Credit Union was a little over $2,400. So our ending balance was $627,710.28. It has already been noticed that the $150,000, please note, has not been added to this total of the county funds. That is still in process. Yeah. Finance department is working with treasurers to locate where that $150,000 sits within the general fund accounts. And so I did find a resolution from 2019 from when we did buy out that CDBG fund. So hopefully that will provide some direction.
Yeah, because was it set aside as matching or was it really given? Because then it would be a big budgeting change. But just appropriated, taken out of the general fund is different than just.
And I had thought Carrie Reddington, when she was here, mentioned that 150 at some point, I've heard both ways, was appropriated, but also used as match for Vernon Acres. But when I looked through all the grant documents for Vernon Acres, I don't find an indication of that, including within the resolutions. But we don't.
That effect either.
Okay.
From an accounting perspective though, Bobby, if it's currently it's in the general fund. So if we do physically take it out and make it fully appropriated in this fund, it's minus 150,000 in the general fund, right?
Yeah, correct.
So we just gotta.
Adjust.
It's been tagged, but it's not financially ever been parked.
Right. That's not part of anybody else's budget. It's set aside in case of emergency when we did the CDBG buyout, but.
So one thing I'm looking into, I want to make absolutely sure we didn't fund the 150 to start the revolving loan program.
I'm pretty sure we didn't. It was just.
I don't think so either. I don't think
I don't think it happened.
I don't think.
I would feel better knowing that we didn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yet to be determined is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
That's something money.
Oh, and just another
Better
thing.
now that we have.
Oh, sorry.
Issue.
John had shared he's working with a business on a possible new loan, and that there was one business he mentioned last month that got off track with their payments. He has reached out to them. They said they will get back on track with those payments.
Okay,
So
good,
he felt confident with that.
important.
That's my update.
Okay. All right. Next, department updates. Christina, you're up first.
Okay, well, it's Fair Week, as we all know, and I'm actually going to be volunteering here after the meeting. And I'm going to be sitting in a booth in the VMH building and giving out materials for tourism, as well as kind of sidelining with the Historical Society and being able to communicate with folks. It's all part of it.
Yeah, I was Historical Society yesterday.
You were? Yeah, great. They have a wheel, I guess. A wheel. Anyways, so that'll be fun. Get to see what the fair is all about, and then I'm sure that I'll be going there with my children and whatnot. Anyway, so there's been with this economic development loan, I have been able to consult with 6 different businesses and have sent out the economic development loan materials. One's a new warehouse build and metal manufacturing business coming to Westby. There's a retail and woodworking business in Liberty Pole. There's an expansion of a food and retail with added Airbnb in Coon Valley. Coffee and ice cream shop. Actually, it's on wheels, but it's in Ontario. A snack shop with an Airbnb as well. It seems to be kind of a trend to be building these Airbnbs. And then also, there's a naturally treated wood manufacturing or business that wants to land in Ontario in their new TIF district. That's probably not going to happen until next year because they still have to build the infrastructure up to it. But that's kind of the plan. We're just starting the conversations there. So CDI grants, those are the Community Development Investment Grants. I'm currently working on one for the $250,000 for Sweet Valley Partners. They're going to be expanding into a new building with an addition in Coon Valley. And they are filling in the basement, which essentially is flood mitigation and economic resiliency. And that's what we're going to be applying that grant for.
They're filling it in or they're putting cement in it? It's a dirt floor right now.
And they're filling it in completely with cement. So it doesn't, so the water doesn't go down in there. You've been down there? Isn't it exciting?
I've been there.
Yeah. We'll have, our goal is to submit that pre-application in early October. We're also going to be submitting a pre-application through the town of Coon because you can't go through one municipality. We had to branch out and we're going to the town of Coon for a new brewery business, also in Coon Valley. There's more coming soon on that. The city of Viroqua did receive a CDI grant for Round River Distilling, so that's moved forward. The product, they make whiskey, and they're a whiskey distiller, and the product is already on the shelves. You can find it at the Kickapoo Quick Stop in Reedstown, as well as at the Viroqua Food Co-op. Those are two I know of just off the top of my head. And the construction will begin soon because they did receive that grant, and they'll be basically making the whiskey right there, as well as there'll be a tasting room. And they think that's going to happen.
Where's the location in Viroqua?
It's right next to the funeral parlor.
Boone, right?
It's the.
So, drive-in?
Used to be a body shop
Yeah.
forever,
Mhm,
just north of Thorson.
Oh, sure.
mhm.
Okay.
So it's kind of like the entrance into Viroqua on
Yeah.
the south side.
It's fine.
So kind of expanding the business district out
Does that
there.
include the drive-in space or is that different?
That point, that apex point,
Mhm.
difference.
But he's been working on that for quite a while. So this is a great push forward for him. The WPA bathhouse also in Viroqua, the fundraising is now in progress. As I may have mentioned in past meetings, we are going to go for a CDI grant for that one as well through the city of Viroqua, but we can't go for the grant unless we have the matching funds. So right now we're doing the fundraising process. The task force or whoever's been involved with like organizing that is doing that. Basically, they're going to be doing the fundraising to be able to match the money that the city has put forward, which is $200,000. And then once we have all the pieces in place, then we can go for the CDI grant, and I'll help them through that process. I went to the Coon Valley Watershed 90th anniversary event. I didn't make it for the tour of all the dams in the area, but I did go to the social hour at the end with the music and the meal. And it was a great place to meet a lot of great people. I mean, there was people from Washington, D.C. there, and it was a super event. And I don't think this is the last time I'll be mentioning working with the Coon Valley Watershed. I believe it's so important for tourism and economic development, and it's a great thing that's moving forward in the county. Especially, just work with the economic development strategy, just working with the various firms that we have, gathering the list and the stakeholders, and trying to distribute that economic development strategy or the survey as far as I could, and answering any calls and help I can do to help get them into the right directions. And that'll be a continuing thing until the strategy's actually delivered in January. We did budgets this month, as well as there's a Ho-Chunk request for the 2024 visitor guide, which I presented it last time, so we got that in. But I am working on the background with that, with the various chambers and the business groups. So when the budget is approved, hopefully, we'll be able to strike when the iron's hot and be able to go, okay, now we can hire the vendors, and now we can really put together the events and the maps and the imagery and all that needs to be doing. So we're just doing kind of some background work to be ready to go when that happens, because our goal is to have that completed by April 1st of 2024. Let's see, November 8th is the Vernon County Awards Banquet. As email as I sent out, we had a tremendous response in regards to nominations. So that just shows that people are very engaged in helping, lift up the businesses and the nonprofits and the educators and special people of the year. The award winners will be contacted in early November or early October, and then we'll have an invite to come out. And I do hope that you guys can come, and it'll be just a great place to network with all these folks and, show the county support, for these businesses and people that are making Vernon County what it is. Summer events are drawing to a close, as like with music in the parks and Live in Viroqua and the Coon Creek canoe races, and Hillsborough had some, but what I've offered up is basically I can work with these multiple event organizers, and I already am, to try to build the story with them, gathering the economic data of what that event did for that area, and then they can be able to, and that translates to dollars, and then they can use that money to apply for future grants or future funding, just kind of shows their story. And I can work with Mississippi River Planning Commission on gathering that data, which actually can show like where these people are coming from and what they're doing while they're here. And it's pretty interesting. It's freaky how they can track that data, but it's able to be done. Broadband grant. So basically to date, the data gathering is nearly complete. And what's going to happen next is I'll regroup with the broadband group, which we created back when we did the first broadband planning grant. We're going to create a broadband plan. And although we do have wonderful broadband here in Vernon County, there are some gaps. And that is the goal, is to try to fill those gaps. And so we're going to work to build the broadband plan of like where those gaps are, which have been already identified. That's the work that we've done. And we work with GIS to really get that map in place. And then we can apply for a capital, it's called the Capital Project Broadband Infrastructure Grant. And we can apply as soon as November 7th of 2023. So, and then we apply, and hopefully with the work that we've done thus far and the data that's been collected, we'll be able to hopefully secure some of that money to actually be 100% covered in Vernon County.
Just a quick question. I don't know, with as aggressively pursued that network.
Yeah.
What was it? Was it density of population, geographical, physical things that made it too expensive in relation to that they didn't cover, or what?
Yeah, there's a
combination of those things, I'm assuming.
There's a couple things of like
Sure.
complicated when you have a different like vendor, or like let's say Starlink, for example, that come in and they kind of land grab, and
Got it.
So trying to work through those nuances, but with this particular deal is we can identify the vendors we want to use. And if we want to use Coon Valley Telephone, Hillsborough Telephone, Vernon Communications, our locals, we can give them the work to do it, and that's the hope. Working a bit with Hannah here. One thing that we had to do with the budget, this is the end of my report. One thing we have to do with the budget is we got to identify like our goals for 2024. And I thought this was a great process to like what we've accomplished in 2023, like revamping the economic development loan and getting the strategy underway and things like that. But the goals for 2024, one of it is to create these kind of two focused groups and on childcare and housing, which we've heard numerous times throughout this meeting, right? But and working with Hannah, before we even like start these groups, we'll have an organizational capacity of what we want to accomplish in these groups, what data is already driving it, what has already been done in the county, because we don't need to repeat that. But then we can actually take all that, start the group fresh with knowledge, and then be able to actually try to move some of those initiatives forward to actually have solutions. So one other thing that we're working together with community development, Hannah and myself, is we're going to be creating a quarterly newsletter. It's just kind of highlighting the community grants and the economic development loan and the work that Hannah does and the data that we can collect, and featuring of one business or featuring an event. It should be pretty easily to be compiled. It's mostly just like me talking here, giving an update. It's basically going to be in a digital form as well, and then we can send it out to this business network that we're creating. And that's the end of my report for today.
Thank you, Christina. Any questions, anyone? Nope. Okay, Hannah, thank you for joining us. Go ahead.
Thanks. Okay, so I've just been working with Sue on the INE Club. So we have a whole year planned out of topics, and I'm working on scheduling the speakers right now. So we're making good progress with that. And then once I have that wrapped up, Sue and I are going to be, before the end of the year, launching the marketing for that. So it'll start about March of 2024 is when we're going to open back up. So gives her time to prep and go through and do things that she wants to do with it. So because INE Club has forever been her baby. So
will you be changing venue because it is kind of small?
Nope. Sue wants it.
It's packed all the time then. Good.
Yep.
Okay.
Sue wants it there. And so we are looking at a different date and time. I know she did survey her list of like 500 people that she has that have come and gone from the INE Club in the past several years. So we'll be looking at that at the end of the month. We're going to meet again and continue our planning through that. So. And then I am working on a how to start a business series, very basic level. Someone off the street could walk in and take it and digest it with no problem. So it will be in a 4-part series. That way it's a lot easier. It doesn't take up a lot of people's time, and it can be a little more effective that way. And there'll be some work that can be done in between with it too. So, and that, if all goes well, we are looking at the option of potentially marrying that with a symposium with Vita, that people could showcase their potential business ideas, and then have kind of a shark think tank set up in which we would review, and then have a resource fair that would be available for those people as well to figure out the pathway in which how to navigate starting their business from there. So I'm working with Christina on the economic impact video. So we'll start probably storyboarding before the end of the year, as things start coming out more with this strategy plan, and looking at what that will look like so that we can have a really good marketing piece for the county, as well as show the economic impact that Vernon County already has, and why it is a good place to live here, why it's a good place to work here, and hopefully then touch point on those places for, that you could, for the broadband portion, be able to have a remote job and live here and still have taken the beauty and the recreational part, that Vernon County has to offer. So, and then working with her on the task force for childcare and workforce housing. I have started to compile some information. I do know that Lafarge did get a DCF grant. So they are looking at a childcare facility. So, but they are just in the planning stages.
Who's this?
Lafarge. Yeah, they, the way that I understand it is it's either an old dentist or eye shop that they're looking at redoing for it. So I need to touch base with the village president down there. So, and then just continuing my outreach throughout the communities and starting to try to get more out of the county level and down into the communities, and being able to meet with village presidents and mayors and stuff like that. So.
Good. Thank you, Hannah. Amy, do you have some reports from Grants Department?
I'll be quick. We are just busy right now. This happens to be the time frame where quarterly reports are due for managing right now, just in the grants office, 6 federal grants totaling almost $3 million. So, and they all have different due dates, and they all have different requirements and compliance. So it's just managing that right now, and then submitting our reimbursement requests so we can get money that we've spent so far this year back into our account before the end of the year. We have gotten so many requests to research grants, from I need a new salt shed in my municipality to ADA compliance within county buildings. I've had nonprofits reach out to me personally to see if I could help them write grants. And well, not typically in my wheelhouse here, right? Because there's county department heads who also need help writing their grants, which is what my role is. It is people, grants keeps coming up among businesses, nonprofits, county departments. There is a lot of grant funding out there, and people want to tap into that, but they just don't have the people to do it.
With
Right?
the expertise.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Connor and I were hoping to be submitting a grant to cybersecurity at the county. We finally got answers from FEMA. And it's not our turn yet. It's a state application. It's called the State and Local Cybersecurity Grant, so it's very confusing. It's the state's opportunity to submit their application and their plan, but in February, they're going to open it up to local government, and they expect it to be extremely competitive. So Connor and I will start working on that in November. And then trying to think of, the community development grant, and we approved a couple more vouchers. So Reedstown and Viola have submitted, so they are actively working on their grant projects. They have submitted for their first reimbursement request, which you just approved here, and we'll mail that to them. And then all of the municipalities that received that award will be submitting their progress report, which is due November 1st. So I can provide an update in November around their projects and where they're at with those.
Yeah, we'll look forward.
I think they're a dynamo team, aren't they, Christina? And yeah.
Yes, thank you for the update.
No.
Next, we have the proposed budget review for 2024.
Patsy, are you gonna go through our budget?
As we've gone through these at both, please, I have the department. Head,
Okay.
and if there's anything that, we need to know or design, that's
That makes sense to me. So I had emailed out in what I call maybe a cleaner version than the financial reports that are produced out of our financial system. Specifically with the grants, I have hundreds of accounts that tie to each grant I'm working on. And I didn't know you didn't want to sift through all those. So I just condensed and summarized. And then extensively, this committee combed through the economic development budget that's proposed for 2024 and approved that to move forward at our last meeting. I did indicate in the email. So the county board did approve ARPA funds up to $50,000 to pay for the economic development strategy that is being implemented right now. The majority of that will be paid in 2023. Those ARPA funds sit in one account. They're expensed out of our budget, if you are department budget, and then the ARPA fund is transferred over to our budget, kind of offset those costs. So the majority will be paid in 2023, with the exception of $9,000 that will be invoiced and paid in January 2024. Therefore, Bobby had advised me to drop that into the 2024 budget. So you'll see that revenue from ARPA come in, which offsets the expense. So it's a wash in terms of the budget there. And then for economic development, so Bobby, Cassie, and I decided that it would make sense to, I have many different funds under my umbrella of budgeting, if you will, but we're going to create just more of a, resource and community development budget, which that department exists now. And so economic development and grants will all fall under.
Okay.
It'll just be a lot cleaner to look at, not necessarily two separate departments. So typically the salaries for my position, Amanda's position, Christina's contract have fallen under Fund 13, which is the big fund that I oversee. For this Fund 10, but I view it in my report. For this purpose, I moved the proposed position for 2024 and passed expenses for Christina's position as the contracted position into this economic development budget, just so you could get like a full view of what the county would be investing in economic development.
So those are all under Fund 10.
Yeah, the salaries, yeah.
Everything looks like there's a bunch of the health insurance and.
Yeah, so, and if you recall, in 2023, we budgeted, $58,729 for the economic development coordinator contract. With that, there wasn't any benefits attached to that. We're proposing that we make that a county full-time position, and with that comes benefits. So while we're not looking at trying to fund this whole new position, the cost of salary and benefits, because it's offset by, we already have $58,729 worked into this budget, it will be an additional probably $25,000 to accommodate for the benefits.
You guys work through, Cassie, so we have new procedures, so we have general government, which we're all working through. I understand you can school me, we got Lauren here too, so they have to approve any new position now, correct?
We would ultimately, assuming the committee is in favor of moving forward with making it a permanent county position, we would move forward at general government with reviewing and adopting that position description. And then
County board for funding.
as part of the budget. So for these new, and that's the way we've been doing it for any
that makes sense.
new positions for 2024.
And the reason for that policy changes in the past, I think positions could have been buried in your budget and the board approves it and doesn't realize how many new positions are actually being approved. This will be much more transparent. So Cassie will highlight, here's all the new position requests. Can we fund them all? Can we not? Which ones
That's a good process, because we had a long discussion at Land and Water this morning, and, Ben's adapting, and it's all well intended, but if it's a new role, even if it's adapting in a bigger role, that should be, you should have some oversight, so it's good.
With each individual budget, this year with the budget book, you'll see a budget summary. It will identify the mission goals, but it also has a separate piece for the full-time, part-time, on-call employees. So it breaks it up as far as historically what that fund or budget supports staff-wise. So you'll be able to see that with each department budget.
So have we approved a job description? We discussed a directional one through year end, but we've got to do all that stuff, don't we?
We have not approved one.
Yeah, I presented a draft or a baseline of one last time. Part of bringing Carl here was to give us some insight on what economic development looks like today, maybe to help further shape that job description. And so ideally, the committee would have, approve that job description, and we could send it through our wage study that's happening now. So they could actually say, yep, you're on, on pace with the salary you're proposing, or you're way off base. I think we're close. But I know that, that would be my hope, is perhaps Rod, Kay, Cassie, and I could sit down and really look at the job description and bring a proposal next month to this committee. That's not to say it can't change, right? Like, this is pretty much like the overall responsibilities that this position would have, but based on this, when the strategy comes back, that action, it might change. We'll tweak it. It might change just a little bit, but not so much that it's going to throw it into a different pay grade or so forth. Does that make sense? So that's something I'm looking for your guidance on, is if you two are interested in tackling that, or what your thoughts are.
I'm happy to chime in. I guess mentally, I'm quite a ways off. I go back to the initial one that we built when we hired Christina, and it was much more hands-on, driving things, and it seemed to turn into a networking person. I'm also very impressed with what Hannah's doing, but I don't want to hear we're never meeting together. I mean, that's not efficient government. So, yeah, I'd love to work on it. I'm just really kind of confused of where are the best resources right now, and budgeting for them before we've approved it. I get the point, and I'd like to have it set aside and ready to go, but I also don't want to. Yeah, and it's not nobody's fault. We're just kind of, it's a new process. So I'm happy to help as best I can. I may be remote. Will probably be remote at the next meeting. What's everybody else think?
Anybody have thoughts? I think it needs to be refined, though, in view of what we heard today, even. And I reviewed the old job description that you were talking about, and it is a bit different from what,
significantly different.
Yeah, from what the current one is. So I think there are opportunities to do some changes.
And a lot of us think it's different than once we haven't even put it in writing yet. If we bring it here, maybe we're all thinking, well, maybe we need 3 different positions, or maybe we just need this or that.
There's a whole lot of difference between bringing factories in than bringing people's in.
Amen.
Yeah.
Factory, you need one building to bring the people to work. They need a lot of houses.
It's pretty clear we don't
Yeah.
need that now.
Yeah, childcare and housing is going to be so high on the list. And how you arrange or help that. It has to be some way.
So have you talked to Bobby? How do you want to, again, I'm confused in terms of process. I think we want to try to have funds ready, but I also don't feel comfortable approving a budget and asking for money we may not be exactly what we.
As Amy had alluded to, the difference about 25 shows.
Yeah.
And that's basically. For thing, 25,000. So if you wanted to leave it in there for now, so the budget, I would suggest doing that rather than the opposite, taking it out of the budget and having, say that the committee does want to move forward with it being a permanent position, and then we've approved the budget in November, but we don't have the funds for a benefited position. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, it's, yeah. It'd be easier to say it's in the budget, people fall back asleep and they vote for it, whereas if we say, it's a great role, we need it, but it's not in the budget. Yeah.
Say that the.
I'm with you.
the
I'm with
committees
you.
who don't want to do it, you can have that
Not that anybody falls
$25,000.
asleep.
No, not lately.
Sherman's gone.
So, what's the opinion of the committee? On this position particularly, when you decide to move ahead, we talked about a benefited position that also has supervision. I think that's another,
I'm in support.
yeah.
I
And
think it's important for. So in order to hit with the benefits, but it also adds with it the accountability piece.
Yeah, it does. Any thoughts, anybody? Lauren?
Isn't it Lent you give up thinking? It's that
Lent?
April. That's April.
Forget it, you're still on your trip, yeah. John, any opinions?
I think a lot of,
Yeah, go ahead.
you know, we look at our budgets and it's real easy just to keep adding to it and adding to it. Yeah, it's needed, but it's like we haven't had a hard year for a long time. You know, we keep adding and adding to it, adding wages, adding more wages. You know, everyone gets paid more and more and more, and there's not the money coming in. So, you know, we're going to have to either cut back on services or cut back on labor. I mean, that's the math of it.
How's that priority-based budgeting going so far?
We're finally just scratching the process part. It's still a long ways away. I mean, Cassie's got experience. I'm trying to get, the more they hear it, see, Cassie, I'm working on it. See, I kicked him to say that. But anyway, no, we're a long ways away from implementation, but we're taking it step by step. But I think it is easier to have it in the budget if we want to do it, than to try to put it in there.
Oh, yeah,
you know,
definitely.
Yeah, and we don't have to spend that money. I want to know what this new plan comes out and says, because I think that is going to decide it for me, you know.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Which way it's going to, you know. But I think it should be in there too.
Okay, so it's a temporary placeholder now, and we'll see what the plan is.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Any other things for the budget?
I didn't know if you wanted me to go over the grants. You'll see an increase in salaries. That's pretty much off the 10%, the 10% COLA from September and January. Yes. Otherwise, it just mine really fluctuates on, hey, because I have multi-year grants I'm managing. So next year, I think with these demos or these certain grant expenses, I'm going to use this much money, and really I'm going to bring that much money back in. So my budget's relatively simple, if you will. What goes out comes in, except for salaries and supplies and so forth.
Trends, there are going to be fewer big, grants to get. I think the field is competitive.
Yeah, very competitive now. People are catching on.
But I will keep applying, and
I know you will.
yes.
I know you will.
But yeah, if you don't have any questions for grants, or Cassie, is there anything you wanted to highlight for grants? Pretty easy. Yeah. Then I would just need.
So we just need to have the committee approve the proposed budget and move it forward.
Amy, on your budget though, if you get the opportunity to bring more money in during the year and then spend that money, that really just blows your budget all. I mean, this is just it's exercise.
Right. My budget could look really off if I get a grant, but I'm spending it all and don't get that reimbursement. You know what I mean? For several months. Yeah. Or if we get money up front, which is kind of rare with some grants, but sometimes you do. Or if I get a big payment that's paying expenses from years ago, which had to happen because it wasn't, the reimbursement requests weren't kept up on, then I look really good, right? Because I have all stuff coming. So it's a little deceiving, but.
So what's the timeline on if we want to do this job description for the economic development role? Are we in a rush to do that? Or are we, I'm just trying to think through timelines, because if you want, it's got to get approved here as support to go to general gov. Yeah, I guess we're in a huge rush, so.
No, we're not. I don't think.
Because if we have it in the budget and it does get passed, it's fine. If it's not in the budget, if it doesn't get passed, it's bad.
They don't have to worry about it, but if it's in the budget, then we can prepare it.
And is it a fair comment to say there's a framework built with refinement coming down the pike off of comments and like John said, from stuff that we can fine tune, focus and direction.
I think that's a great point, Tom, but my concern is that we need to be fair to Christina too. And if we've extended her, we kicked the can down the road and now, if we have a totally new role and it's officially government, we probably need to post that. And then I don't want to be half there. And then, we're into March and February and Christina's got to be fair to her. Now, I think we extended her contract. To extend it again, it's possible, but that's not very fair either. So there's some kind of sense of urgency to get clarity, I think, for everybody, to be fair there. But yeah, we don't have to do it overnight. So we'll work on the job description.
Sure. All right. Okay, is there a motion to approve the proposed budget?
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed budget.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any additional comments? If not, all those in favor of approving the proposed budget signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, Economic Development Committee vacant seat discussion.
As most of you probably know, Nancy Jackal has resigned, and we've actually got two people that would like to come on, and there's not room for two people. And there are sometimes positions that people volunteer for, like you guys basically volunteered for, that you really, after a number of years, you're like, I'd really like to get out of here, but I really don't know how. And I guess, I would, talk to me offline or whatever, if that's what I'm not wanting anybody to leave actually, but if, this would be an opportunity if somebody wants to get off the committee and pursue other things that, they wouldn't have to feel guilty about leaving us high and dry because we've got two qualified applicants that would fill the bill. So, I guess that's about, if I don't hear from nobody, I'll have to flip a coin or
I guess
something.
the other one question left. Can you call Karen and just have a discussion with her?
What's that?
Isn't Karen our other citizen at large?
It's Karen, Tom, Katie.
Okay.
Yeah.
That it's not here. I thought.
Not
But those are the positions.
Right.
I didn't realize Karen.
I'm just saying Karen.
Well, that, about
And
15
that
minutes
position
ago.
we need to fill. You have two qualified
I have
at-large.
two qualified applicants.
That are-
would be
Private or?
Yep.
private, right, yeah. They would be, I hate to turn either one of them down.
Both very qualified.
Very qualified and, I don't want to kick anybody off either, but if somebody, I've been on several volunteer committees, it's like, man, I'd love to get off this.
But it's also at your discretion to exercise that right.
Right, yeah.
I've been on committees.
You've been
I've seen that
chaired,
done.
that's right.
It does for
Exactly.
people, but if you see an opportunity,
Yeah, I know, that's,
I appreciate the way you're approaching it. I'm just simply saying, I've seen it done the other way going, thank you for your service.
It does happen, yeah, it does happen.
So, yeah, okay.
So these two people, is one in the banking?
No, they're both in private industry.
So then we got to keep a banker on here, 'cause that's part of the rules.
yeah, banker and,
The time
I
you
wrote it down somewhere.
yeah, one of you are free to go. No, yeah,
Got it. Okay.
right. I mean, just something you can think about.
Yeah. What fields are these two people in?
We'll take it offline.
It says one banking, one real estate, one business owner.
This suggested category.
Of the 4 people. So it could be duplicate in any of those.
Well, and I know that you have 2 people that have expressed interest. But when you and I had, were there any other, and not that you need 3 or 4 people who are interested, but we had asked the committee to come with thoughts.
Right.
Just if you had any
If you have any,
people who might be of value to the committee.
I asked people and that person made themselves available. They didn't
Yeah, I'm gonna bring it back to me.
The one I wanted to ask, I didn't ask, so I can't.
I do know Karen asked somebody, as that person called me and asked me what it's like.
Okay.
It was terrible.
I know.
Yeah, what a committee.
Because I was like, well, you know. And so I'm not sure if she.
No one else has contacted me, so.
Okay, so it's, you will make the ultimate decision.
The other thing is, I'll make the announcement that we are hosting the Vernon County Dairy Breakfast down in Newton Valley this year.
Nice.
And if
Free eggs.
Vernon yeah, might have enough eggs for that. If Vernon County Economic Development would like to put a booth down there to promote Vernon County, there'll be room for that.
And do you have that date?
Down the work a couple of. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Give away wine samples, maybe.
That's next. Yeah.
And so that's the dairy breakfast. Is that like
It's a dairy
next
breakfast.
2024?
Correct.
Right? Yep.
Do you have the date?
Either the first or second weekend, we're not,
Oh, you're not
depends
confirmed yet.
upon the weather. We're going to try to forecast it together.
Okay.
Everything will be perfect. If it's
Yeah.
if it's not, it's going to be muddy like every place else. So, but they say it wasn't the first time they've had to
So
pull
they're doing it on your farm then?
on the farm. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll involve poultry and dairy for the first time.
That's a pretty big deal, being able to be chosen to do that.
Yeah, you had to twist your arms pretty good. Make a lot of promises that I hope they keep and all that stuff like that. Yeah. We don't have a lot of fixing up to do because it's pretty good now, but there's a lot of these little piles that accumulate that this needs to go, this needs to go.
Scrap metal's high.
Is scrap metal high now? I haven't heard that.
So you're going to be burning all that plastic?
Yeah. That's one comment I did want to make. We up in Alaska, and if you want to see recycling, if the utmost, Alaska and Canada is like, they don't waste nothing. I mean, if you want a bag to carry your donut out of the shop, you have to ask for it. It's
And pay for it.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
And some states are like that as well.
Yes.
It's not here.
Charge you 5 cents for a bottle, 10 cents.
Or a bag, any kind of bag. Okay, well, we'll leave that decision up to you. We've had a discussion about it. Agenda items for next meeting.
Be volunteers for
Well, we know we'll have updates from our firms for the economic development strategy.
Okay. I have a request. Christina, could you find out about the Genoa nuclear plant update? They've had their hearings, and I'd like to know, because that does impact this county.
questions.
Yeah, so could you give us a report?
I can. We can probably bring an expert in.
Well, that'd be
Like-
fine, whatever you want to do.
Okay.
That impacts the county budget as well, so. Any other things for next month? If not, the next meeting is Thursday, October 5th, 9:30 in the morning. This time we're back to morning. So don't be confused. Karen, somebody better tell Karen.
Look it up, make a call.
Could I-
I'll be online just to make sure.
That's fine. Sure. There's no reason we can't do that. All right, motion to adjourn, please. Anyone?
I'd make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second that.
Meeting adjourned.
Second.
Lauren. Lauren did. Yep. Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you for taking special time this afternoon.